Okay, boys and girls, we're ready for week 3, and this is Module 4, Lesson 7. Because this is a short week, Easter break and everything, we're not doing the whole packet, so let's cross off the tape diagrams. Of course, you could go back and do those later if you want. Cross off these two, and we're going to start with the application problem. So the application problem says, Mr. Peterson bought a case, which is 24 boxes of fruit juice. 1/3 of the drinks were grape and 2/3 were cranberry. How many boxes of each flavor did Mr. Peterson buy? Show your work using a tape diagram or an array. So let's talk about the numbers in the problem first of all. We've got 24 boxes, and then we've got 1/3, and we got 2/3. Okay, so the thing we need to know is what 1/3 of 24 is, and this actually is leading right into our lesson. And we also need to figure out 2/3 of 24. Now, the word of can be substituted for copies of or groups of. And so when I do copies of or groups of, boys and girls, what am I actually doing? Hopefully you remembered it's multiplication. So 2/3 times 24. Now I could be thinking of 24 copies of 2/3, but don't write this. But would I want to do that? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to do 24 copies of 2/3. So we're going to do it a different way with the tape diagram. So I want you to draw a tape diagram. And then I want you to think about thirds. If I'm going to divide this tape diagram into thirds, because that's my denominator, I'm going to need 3 equal parts. And then do I have a total? Yes, my total is 24 boxes. And then the question is asking, how many boxes would 1/3 be? And how many boxes would 2/3 be? And even though I substituted the word of for multiply, to me, it makes more sense to use the word of. You just have to remember that it also means multiply. Okay, so now I've got some work to do. First thing I have to do is I have to think of the whole case divided into 3 equal parts. So I'm going to put 3 units here instead of 3 parts. So 3 units would be 24 boxes. Okay? Then I have to figure out 1 unit. So to figure out 1 unit, I'm going to divide 24 divided by 3. So that would give me 8 boxes. So then if I have 8 boxes for each of these, that tells me that 1/3 would be 8 boxes, and then 2/3 would be 16 boxes. Okay, so that's what we're working on today. We're going to practice about 5 problems, and I'll try and go slowly for you. Okay, let's continue on. So problem 1 says, what is 3/5 of 35? And we could rewrite that to be 3/5 times 35. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at my denominator. I've got fifths. So that means I need to show fifths on the tape diagram. And then my total that we're looking at is 35. So that means what I've just shown on the tape diagram is 5 units would be 35. And since this is not a word problem, we don't know if 35 what. So now the next thing I have to figure out, what's my question asking? My question is asking, what would 3/5 be? To figure out 3/5, I have to figure out 1/5. So 1/5 of 35, so I've got to figure out what's in one box. So to do that, I'll do 35 divided by 5. So each box, or each unit, is going to be 7. Now, to figure out 3 of those, that would be 21. So 3/5 of 35 equals 21. Okay, let's look at problem 2. Ariella buys 2 dozen roses. Of these roses, 3/4 are red and the rest are white. How many white roses did she buy? Okay, so the first thing we have to do, how many equal parts do we need? The denominator is 4, so we need 4 equal boxes. And the total this time, they're trying to trick us, but it's 2 dozen. So 1 dozen is 12. So 2 dozen would be 24 roses. All right, so now we've got 4 units. It says 3/4 of these are red. How many are white? Okay, so the same thing goes. To figure it out, we have to figure out what's in each box. So we know that 4 units is 24 roses. And that would mean 24 divided by 4. Here's one way to write it. Would be the answer to 1 unit. So 24 divided by 4 is 6. So 1 unit, or 1/4, would be 6 roses. Now to figure out 3 units, 6 times 3 equals 18. But the question says, how many white roses did she buy? So she bought how many white roses? Okay, let's do problem 3. Problem 3 looks a little trickier. It says Rosie had 17 yards of fabric. She used 1/3 of it to make a quilt. How many yards of fabric did Rosie use for the quilt? Well, right away I know that 17 is not divisible by 3. So that means I'm probably going to have a mixed number for my answer. So let's start with this, 17 yards. We have to divide it into 3. Now it's asking how much 1/3 would be. So that's our question mark this time. So 17 divided by 3. Oh, by the way, 3 units is 17 yards. Or we could write 17 divided by 3, so it could be 17/3. But we're going to do long division here, so 3 times 5 is 15. That gives me a remainder of 2. Now, do you remember how I told you you could take your remainder, put it on top of your divisor, and that will give you a fraction? So 1 unit is going to be 5 2/3 yards. Okay. So Rosie used 5 2/3 yards of fabric for the quilt. This one's a little different. It says 2/3 of a number is 8. So guess what? We don't know the number. This is going to be fun. Do we have a denominator? Yes, we do. It's 3. And we know that 2/3 is equal to 8. So 2 out of 3 is 8. Now remember, to figure out the answer, we have to figure out what one box is. So I could do this by figuring out that each box, if I add them together, would be 8. So 1 unit is 4. I don't know why I said 8. It's 4. And then to figure out my total, I just take 4 times 3, which is 12. So the number is 12. That's our answer. Those are a little different. Okay. Tiffany spent 4/7 of her money on a teddy bear. If the teddy bear cost $24, how much money did she have at first? Okay. This is the same thing. We don't know the number. So the question mark is on the top. We know that our denominator is 7, so we have to divide it into 7 equal parts. We know that 4 of those are $24. So to figure this out, we have to figure out what goes in each box. And then we're going to have to add on 3 more boxes. So to do this, 24 divided by 4 is what I'm going to do. So 24 divided by 4. 4 times something equals 24. So in each box, we're going to have a sixth. So 1/7 would be $6. I'm going to put a dollar sign there. So if I take them all, I could add 18 plus 24, or I could just take 6 times 7. So she started out with $42. Okay, that's it. We'll do the problem set tomorrow.